Okay. This is the, I don't know how to say this. This is for the mission trip. The kids that went on it were Matt Reinecke, Seth Wibben, Sawyer Loger, Dylan Larson, Isabella Dietrich, Mary Jacobson, Pastor Lisa Dietrich, and Scott Dietrich. Okay, so we went to SeaWorld, and we were splashed by whales, and we went on a lot of rides. It was fun. That was at the Oklahoma City Bombing Memorial. The chairs represent each person that died in the bombing. So there's small chairs for children and bigger chairs for the adults. And that was a wall that was dedicated to the rescuers. It says, we search for the truth, we seek justice, the courts require it, the victims cry for it, and God demands it. That's the reflection pool in the 901 and 903 gates. It was the time period in which the bombing happened, was what the gates were for. That was the Arbuckle Scenic Rest Area, and it's just a area for looking out and resting. That was at the chapel that was at the mission that the town mission was named after. So that was we went there and looked around. It's pretty cool. That was at the Dolphin Watch and Eco Tour. They ran a net through water and got a bunch of animals out and talked about the different fish and starfish and stuff. And we saw dolphins. That was also what happened on that part. That was at the Sea Turtle Rescue, and Dylan and Matt adopted a turtle, and Dylan named his Leslie, and Matt named his Shane, and they both adopted hatchlings, so babies. That was in South Padre Island. That was a sandcastle in front of the Welcome Center, and it was made out of river clay, so it wouldn't fall apart that easy, or river sand. And that was, all right, we did a bunch of sightseeing, but we also did Bible study and worked. And that was during, we're talking about the beasts of Revelation. So we each had to two of us dressed up like beasts, and we kind of had a battle. The tiaras were because we always talked about crowns, and yeah, the book always talked about the crowns. The ears talked about how every person needs to hear. The Kool-Aid represented the blood from, so there were 7 bowls that had 7 plagues. Kool-Aid had to do with the blood, and then seaweed had to do with the dead bodies.
So we also did some mission work while we were down there. We worked at a food bank, which is what that picture's of. While we were down there, we learned that 50% of the children in the Rio Grande Valley live below the poverty level. And what we did at the food bank was we packaged emergency food relief for flooding victims in Edinburgh. And we worked for 2.5 hours, and that was enough to feed 2,500 people. And those were what the packages looked like when we were done. And then we also helped take down a tent that was going to the emergency relief victims of the Tropical Storm Bill. The same victims where they would receive the care packages that we created. And the warehouse that we were working in wasn't air conditioned, and it was 103 degrees that day, so it was pretty hot.
The other place we worked was at the Welcome Center, and this is where refugees come, and all the people that go to the Welcome Center are determined to be there legally. Mom, if you could go back a slide. One of the things we saw is that a lot of the little girls that came in were wearing pillowcase dresses, which we thought was really cool, seeing as that's a new ministry that our church has started. But most of the refugees that come in, they're not from Mexico. They're usually from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and further places in South America. So they've walked across multiple countries to get here. And there's a huge process that when you come in, you have to go through at the Welcome Center. But the very first thing that happens when all the refugees walk in is all the volunteers clap for them. Because this is the first real welcome they get, and we're the first smiling faces they see. And then they have to go through their paperwork and make sure they have everything they need, and they get toiletries and food and a shower and new clothing, and they get to use the bathroom. And then one of the really cool things is they get to make 2 phone calls. They get one to the people they're going to so they can set up a time to be picked up, but then also they get a call home so they can let everyone they care about know that they made it safe. And then they get a bus ticket to go towards family. The other thing is all the adults have to wear ankle bracelets until their court date, which can be up to 2 years later. But one thing that was really sad that we saw is one mom had an ankle bracelet on and her little boy saw it, and he was maybe 18 months, and it scared him so much he just kept screaming. And that was really sad to see. But one thing we learned when we were there is that 90% of the women are raped and 50% of the men are raped on their way or shortly after they get to the US. And that was a really startling statistic to learn, seeing as that almost all the women we worked with would have then been raped. But one thing that we brought was new shoes, and we bought more when we were down there. And we saw over 100 people the day we worked at the Welcome Center, and we only brought about 68 shoes, so we barely even could make a dent in the amount of mission that was happening there. One thing that happens at the Welcome Center is anything cloth that they come with has to be thrown away for fear of hepatitis or lice and things like that. And one thing that was really hard, especially for Mom and I, a woman we were working with and her little boy, they had to throw away his baby blanket for fear of it being contaminated. And it was a very emotional day for everyone, and I'm sure everyone has millions of stories they can tell you after church about that day. But the one thing that was really cool was the transformation that we saw, from the women doing each other's hair and laughing and doing their little girls, and hugs as they got on the bus to leave, and their smiles, because for the first time in a long time, these people actually had hope.
All right, good morning. All right, I'm going to talk to you about what the food we ate there, and it was a little different food from what we ate here. All right, one of the first places that we stopped was Whataburger, and that is basically like McDonald's and Burger King, but they got bigger burgers. And they have spicy ketchup and all that good stuff, and yeah, it was pretty good to eat. One of the things that we ate for breakfast, oh, sorry, we hadn't, that's it. All right, one of the things that we ate there was rice, and you know, it sounds simple, but Charlie, he made like the best rice. All he did was put it in like an oven, put some chicken stuff on it, and then he served it to us, and we had like 3 bags of leftovers, and we ate that, and we loved it. All right, and one of the places we stopped was, one of the foods that we ate for breakfast was Texas-shaped waffles. I didn't eat that, but they did, and and one of the, all right, these are raspas, and they're basically like shaved ice, but with like a lot of syrup on it. And one of the places we stopped was Gazpacho's, and we each ordered tiger's blood, which is basically like cherry and pineapple, right? Right, and the funny thing after that was, after we were drinking them, we each had red teeth. All right, and one of the places before we went to South Padre was called Pirates Landing, which is on Port Isabel. And one of the new foods that I ate was calamari, which is basically squid. And I ate like the whole plate, and they only ate a couple bites, but it was pretty good. All right, and that is a wedding cake, except that it's not a cake, it's a whole bunch of little cookies that they put up and stack it. And those were pretty good. And here's some funny pictures from the trip. All right, I just want to thank all the moms and dads that let us go on this trip, because without their money, we probably wouldn't have money for food.
I'd just like to thank the congregation for your prayers, financial support, and then your donations of the shoes.
I would like to thank the endowment committee for all of your financial support. Like, without it, we wouldn't have been able to go on the trip, and we all had a really great time, so thank you.
I would like to thank the youth committee for their financial support. We wouldn't have been able to go if we hadn't gotten the financial support that we did. And Dylan and Matt couldn't be here because they're on vacation, but they would like to thank everybody else.
Well, I'd just like to say, today we saw in the text, verse 8, the Lord opens the eyes of the blind, the Lord lifts up those who are bowed down. I would say that maybe we're the blind. We don't see this suffering that happens not that far from us. And certainly our eyes were opened. It's very emotional at the Welcome Center. And anyone that has the opportunity to go and work there, I think you should. I cannot tell you what a difference it makes in one day in someone's life to bring them from hopelessness that maybe there's a glimmer of hope in their life. And again, thank you for an opportunity you gave us to go and do with this.